Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, Appalachian Home Co. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about best materials that I have found to use with the Cricut machines. And I'll go over some of the differences in the different types of machines, and then we'll go down and look at vinyl and iron-on, transfer tape, tools, and things like that, and which brands I think are best to use with your Cricut machine. So I hope you find this video helpful and enjoy it. So we'll go ahead and jump on in. I'm going to show you which Cricut machine is my favorite. There are three different types of machine Cricut makes. There is the Cricut Joy, the Cricut Explore series, and the Cricut Maker. And the Explore and the Maker come in the Model 3 version. But let's start with the Cricut Joy. The cutting area on a Cricut Joy is 4.5 inches, but you can cut materials up to 20 feet long. With the Cricut Joy, you can cut 50 plus materials, including vinyl, iron-on, and cardstock, which is the main things that I would use with the Cricut Joy. It can cut with the fine point blade, write with the pens, and it can also use the foiling tool, which adds a foiling embellishment to your cards and things like that. The cost for this machine is around $180. It's the cheaper of the machines. So if you're a card maker and thinking about doing cards, this would be a great machine for you to get started as an entry-level machine. With the Cricut Explore Air series, you can use 6 different types of tools, including a fine point blade, which cuts all the materials we just talked about, the deep point blade, which gets a little bit thicker, like on those heavy cardstocks, such as poster board. You can also use the scoring stylus, which creates fold lines in your cards. You can use a bonded fabric blade to cut that bonded fabric, and you can also use all of the pens and markers that you can as with the Cricut Joy. And if I didn't mention it, you can also use the foiling tool, which creates those foiled designs in your materials. The Explore series can cut over 100 materials, so it's a little bit of an upgrade from the Cricut Joy. This machine starts around $249 for the regular Explore, and then if you get the Explore Air 3, it goes up to around $320. So next is the Cricut Maker and the Maker 3. With this machine, you can actually cut over 300 materials, including all the ones we just talked about, but you're also going to get into some little thicker materials, such as some thin plastics. You can even cut some wood, such as the balsa wood and chipboard. And there are over 13 tools you can use with the Cricut Maker 3, including all of the blades we just talked about, with the addition of the wavy blade. Now the wavy blade I actually don't have and have not used, but you can create wavy cut lines around your designs if you're cutting out iron-on or vinyl and things like that. You also can use a debossing tip with the Maker. This kind of puts an indentation in your materials, especially wood and things like that. You can also use an engraving tip with the Maker and Maker 3. I did a video a while back on engraving in jewelry. I had several orders to get some jewelry that was engraved. You also can use a scoring wheel and a double scoring wheel. This creates fold lines as well. They're much cleaner and crisper, and especially with the double scoring wheel, it gives you a really crisp fold line on your cards. And the last thing that you can actually use with the Maker series is a perforation blade. I haven't used this either, but I really want to because it creates perforations in your materials. So that kind of goes over all the features, not in depth, but just on the surface of the 3 machines. My personal favorite is the Cricut Maker or the Cricut Maker 3. If you get the Explore 3 or the Maker 3, then you have the Smart Material option and you can cut a longer design. So I hope that helped you on deciding which machine is the best for you. Now we're going to go ahead and jump on into which materials are best to use with your Cricut machines. So first let's talk about vinyl, because vinyl is a universal material. Many people use vinyl. You can use it for decals, you can use it for signs. There's just so many uses for adhesive vinyl, and this is the main thing that I use with my Cricut machine. The brands of adhesive vinyl I use most are Cricut brand, Oracle brand, and Tack Wrap Craft vinyls. You should know when choosing vinyl that Cricut has matched the material settings you select when you want to cut with your machine with Cricut brand materials. So if you are just starting out and are afraid to change the material settings or try and figure out how to cut any brands that are not Cricut brand, then the Cricut brand vinyl is going to work great for you. It is good quality in my opinion. I have sold decals with it and made lots of wooden signs with it. It really does last, and it cuts and weeds really smoothly. If you make a lot of items to sell, such as decals, then brands like Oracle are more easier to get in larger quantities and for cheaper cost for larger rolls at a time. I also use Tech Wrap Craft Vinyl because it has a huge range of beautiful colors and textures of vinyl, but because it is thicker than Cricut brand vinyl, I have to use different cut material settings. You won't go wrong with any of these brands of vinyl. Iron-on vinyl is also a material you can use with your Cricut machines. I use this all the time. It's kind of in the same category as adhesive vinyl, except it needs to be ironed on a material such as t-shirts or tote bags. There are a couple brands that I like. Cricut brand is great to use with Cricut heat presses like the Cricut Easy Press, and it has preset temperatures and times that you follow on Cricut's heat guide, so that makes it really easy to figure out what settings to use with different materials. If I'm going to be using my StarCraft heat press, which is my larger heat press, I always use Caesar Easy Weed. I have problems sometimes with Cricut in my large heat press, but the Caesar seems to work much better. So now I want to talk about transfer tape, and transfer tape is kind of not specific to Cricut machines, but it is a question that I get a lot, so I wanted to go ahead and tell you guys which is my favorite and which is the best to use with Cricut materials, with any kind of vinyl. So here is Cricut brand transfer tape. This is really good to use with Cricut materials, but the only thing I don't like about Cricut brand transfer tape is it does have the grid lines on it, and it also has Cricut's logo on there. If you're selling decals, that may be a problem. You may not want to put a logo gridded pattern over your decals. It makes it look kind of messy, and if you're selling a lot of these, it may just not be something you want to do. It's something that I certainly do not want to do. So my favorite transfer tape to use with all of my decals is Green Star brand, and I've told this a couple times in some of my videos. I get this from US Cutter online. It's around $34 a roll. I'll have to look on that because I can't remember specifically, but it comes in this huge roll. I've used almost all of it. I have like maybe 2 feet left of this. It's usually around 1 inch thick on the roll. So this is definitely my favorite. You can get it in 12 inches wide, 24. You can get it in different widths, even 6 inches wide. But it's a medium tack, clear. I like it because it's clear. My customers can see the decals. This works great with Cricut brand vinyl. It works great with Oracle brand vinyl. If you're using just regular vinyl, like no glitter vinyl or no foil vinyl, this works for most types of vinyl. If you're using a textured vinyl, such as glitter vinyl, I would recommend the Cricut brand Strong Grip transfer tape. If you have real glitter vinyl that actually has the textured glitter on the top, Cricut brand Strong Grip will pull that off the backing and place it to whatever material without holding onto it too tightly. So now we're gonna go and talk about cardstock. Cardstock is another huge thing that people use with Cricut machines. I use cardstock a lot. So which brand is best and which is best to use with Cricut machines? I do like Cricut brand cardstock. It's thick and it holds up well if you're doing cards. This I used in a video a while back on how to make cards with Cricut. Now this is smart cardstock, so it's a little bit different from regular cardstock, but it is super thick. Most cardstock you're going to get from Cricut is textured on one side, so that's something that you need to keep in mind on whatever project it is you're making. If you're drawing with your pens on cardstock, the textured side is going to come out a little bit different looking than if you're drawing on smooth. I will say that regular cardstock, it's cheaper. I just use regular Amazon brand or Walmart brand cardstock. That works great. It cuts fine for most cardstock projects, and it works great too for cards as well. If you are using the Cricut Maker or the Maker 3, you know that you can use the knife blade to cut wood. I use basswood all the time. I did a video a while back. On Valentine's Day, I did some tiered tray decor using basswood. My favorite basswood to use is Cricut brand because I know that the Cricut settings already in the machine are going to cut it perfectly. every time, and they do. So I'm kind of afraid to veer away from Cricut brand basswood and wood and veneer and things like that. I'm sure you can use different brands, but my favorite brands on that level is definitely Cricut brand. Including chipboard, craftboard, and all the wood things. Cricut brand has been my favorite so far to use with the Cricut machines. Leather is also another thing that I use with my Cricut machines and I really love with my Cricut machines. I have used some off brands of leather, just some cheap faux leather. So this is Cricut brand leather. If you get it out, it feels real. The product actually says genuine leather. I use this a lot in cutting, and also use it a lot in my laser machine because you can actually use genuine Cricut leather in your laser cutting machines if that is something that you do. It's not super expensive. It's definitely my favorite. So now we're going to talk about blanks. What are the best blanks to use with your Cricut machine? And when I say blanks, I'm talking about t-shirts that work with your Cricut infusible fabric, with your iron-on. So my favorite blanks that I use all the time are t-shirts, the canvas tote bags, mugs, and the pillow covers, like the throw pillow covers. As far as doing like infusible ink and sublimation, I love the Cricut products because they are 100% polyester and they do so good with sublimation and infusible ink. This is an infusible ink project. You can see how vivid the colors turned out. This is a Cricut brand tote bag. And I also like the Cricut pillow sham blanks or the Cricut throw pillow covers. This also works super good with sublimation. These are canvasy, but they are polyester, so they look really high quality and professional when you get your project done. As for things like mugs, these are two different mugs that I did with the Cricut mug press. One is Cricut and one is not Cricut, and honestly, these are the same mugs. This has to come from the same manufacturer in China or whatever, I'm not sure, but when you're looking at these, this one is the Amazon mug. It has no logo. And this one is the Cricut mug, which does have the Cricut logo. But these are the exact same mugs. They are very good quality, I will say, and they look really good with sublimation. And this is done actually with infusible ink pens. I drew out a design with the Cricut machine. If you're wanting to do bulk, again, it might be cheaper to buy higher quantities from Amazon. So whichever you prefer, both are the exact same mug. And the last blank that I use mainly all the time are t-shirts. So here I have a couple different t-shirts. This is a Cricut brand t-shirt and it has been sublimated. This is 100% polyester. So if you're doing sublimation or if you're doing infusible ink, I recommend the Cricut brand t-shirts. But if you're doing iron-on vinyl and things like that, you can get away with just a Gildan t-shirt because it works perfectly with iron-on materials. I use Gildan Soft Style, and if I'm using iron-on, that is what I go to because these are much cheaper. They're like $2 a piece compared to, you know, $5 or $6 a piece for the Cricut brand. So I hope this video was helpful and you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you like this kind of video and like to see more videos like this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.